Good morning, Year 3, and welcome to a brand new term, Term 4, and another new week. I hope you've all had a fantastic half term, a decent break and a decent rest. And we're hoping that we will be seeing you back later this term, so fingers crossed for that. In the meantime, we have a whole new week of English work to do, so let's take a look at our objectives. We are going to spend this week looking at poetry. We've done poetry before. We spent a week looking at poetry last term. We're going to look at slightly different ideas about poetry this time and really focus in on the rhythm and the rhyming couplets used in lots of different types of poems. So, let's take a look. To begin with, I will ask you to do a grammar lesson. Go to Oak Academy, click on being verbs. I'd like you to take a look at exploring being verbs. When you've done that, come back to the slides and I will guide you through, to begin with, just asking you to think about poetry and what you already know. There's a little start to a poem. You might have heard of this before. Roses are red, violets are blue. Can you, for a bit of fun, just think of a way of continuing that poem? I think you probably can, so you will probably want to come up with a rhyming word that goes with blue. So roses are red, violets are blue, the world's a lovely place and I love you. Something like that. Come up with your own, a second line. Just to get you started, have a think about what you know about poetry, fill in this sheet if you've got it, or just do a little mind map on a piece of paper. What do you know? Well, rhyming words, they can be in verses, different lengths, they can be everything you know. If you don't know lots and lots, that's fine as well, because we're going to be spending this week finding out, aren't we? So that's okay. But I want you to have a think before we start. BBC Bitesize have a lovely page all about rhyming words. Go to that, please. Here we go. It's here. You can click on the link, or you can go to BBC Bitesize and type in what are rhyming words, and you will come up with this lovely video clip, which, if I can just scroll it down a little bit, is going to be really useful just to remind you that rhyming words sound the same. The end of the word sounds the same. They do not have to look the same. They don't even have to be the same length. They don't have to start with the same sound. Rhyming words, it's the end of the word that rhymes. Okay, so don't get confused and think of other homonyms or homophones or anything like that. Rhyming words can be completely different words and they can be spelt in completely different ways, but they just sound the same on the end of the word, okay? So, go to that website, then take a look at the first poem. This is called My New Pet. A couple of pictures there to give you a clue as to what that pet might be. Read it through. My new pet is a curious kind. It popped out of an egg that I did find, with beady eyes and curly claws and razor-sharp teeth filling its jaws, enormous wings like leathery sails, scaly armour right down to its tail, roaring and huffing and puffing out fire, to eat you for dinner is all it desires. It's not a snake or a lizard or bat. My pet is a dragon. How about that? I think you could probably come and find your own rhyming words here. We've got rhyming couplets. This is what we call rhyming couplets, when we have two lines together and the last word on each of those lines rhymes. And you can see that with the word kind and find, yes, we do have the same spelling pattern at the end, IND, different starting letters, but then we have other spelling choices like fire and desires. They still sound very similar. So, what else have we got? We've got another poem to look at, A Little Seed. Nice short poem. I won't read it through. I think you can manage this. So, A Little Seed, rather lovely, to do with plants and growing. This is our success criteria. So this just reminds you of some of the features to be looking for when you look at a poem. So first of all, we structure poems into verses. This is a bit like paragraphs for writing. So if we were writing stories, we organise our ideas into chunks, and it's the same with poems, but we don't call them paragraphs, we call them verses. Usually the verses repeat their pattern. So we might have a 4-line verse, another 4-line verse, another 4-line verse. We also quite often have repetition. Words get repeated, or ideas get repeated, or maybe the rhythm gets repeated. And we also get rhyme. So we've talked about those rhyming words. Sometimes you can have a mixture of long and short lines. Very often you'll see a verse that has the last line in the verse is a short one. Or even the very last line of the poem can be a short one. My poem does not look like a story. Each new idea is set on a new line. It's quite tricky sometimes to write a poem because we naturally write sentences with capital letters at the beginning and full stops at the end. You will notice when you look at poems that they don't always follow the same format as that. And sometimes the sentence doesn't continue all the way to the end of the line. Sometimes a sentence can be broken up over 2 lines or 3 lines. We don't always use capital letters, and we don't always use full stops or commas. So take a look at how they get set out. They're all slightly different. Having said that, I have put here about using capital letters, commas and full stops sometimes. So if you're starting to in a poem and you're using a comma at the end of each line, make sure you do it all the way through. But if you're not using any commas, and you will see some poems later on this week where we don't use commas, in fact I think we might be looking at some today and there's no commas, it's not absolutely necessary. So it is different from your usual writing rules. The poem has a good pace and is easy to read aloud. It's important with poems that you always think about what they sound like when you are reading them out loud. It's not just about reading quietly to yourself. You want to try and get a pace and a pattern going. And then there's a couple of challenge features using figurative language. That's that lovely, decorative, descriptive language that really gives the reader or the listener an image in their head as to what you're talking about. So using similes and metaphors, alliteration, that's different to rhyme. That's when the first letter of words that are next to each other or near to each other have the same sound, like sizzling sausages, the 2 S sounds. So alliteration is sort of different to rhyming because it's the beginning sound that we focus on for alliteration. It can be a really powerful tool in poetry though, it's good fun. And then another challenge using strong adjectives, those other descriptive words, and powerful verbs. So I'm asking you then to think about that success criteria, those features, and then go and look at our poems again. You can see with this poem, just thinking about the punctuation I talked about, that we do have some commas and full stops on this one. If you read back through that poem on the same page of the teaching slides, you will see that I have put the features of a poem up. So you can just tick through if you see these features in that poem. Do the same for the second poem about the seed. Again, you've got your own features list here that you can tick to see if you can identify any of those features. When you've done that, move on, and I want you to think about rhyming couplets. So this is a phrase that describes a pattern of sentences or lines in a poem. So rhyming couplets. Couplets means 2, so we're talking about 2 lines, and we're talking about the end of each of those, the last word in each of those lines rhymes with each other. So have a think about which rhyming couplets you could identify in those 2 poems about the dragon or the one about the seed, and make a little list if you can find any rhyming couplets from those 2 poems. I think you can. And then I thought, well, if you look at this picture, this dog having a lovely time, just relaxing on a beach, the sun is shining, can you have a go at writing a simple verse of just 4 lines about this picture? And it could be really simple. It could be something like, the dog sits comfortably on the seat, all he can think about is something to eat, the sun shines warm and bright, when we look at it now, oh what a sight. So I've managed to come up with 4 lines just thinking about it now. So all I'm focusing on when I'm doing that is I'm thinking of the last two words in the first two sentences, or the first two lines, they must rhyme. And then the last two words in lines 3 and 4, they must rhyme. Have a go, have a practice. This is just a little practice sheet. Before you move on to your task today is to just come up with rhyming words, and then when you've done that, at the bottom of the page you'll see you have a choice of this sheet here or this sheet here. At the bottom of both of those sheets, it's on the website, you will see there are some lines there for you to have a go at doing some of your own rhyming couplets to write your own verse to do with sport. Our topic this term is Get, Set, Go, which is all to do with things like staying healthy, so healthy eating, so good eating habits, physical exercise, keeping fit, good hygiene, keeping clean, keeping fit and well, definitely exercise. You can see that the words that I've put in here, lots of them are to do with exercise. Have a go at coming up with as many rhyming words as you can that go with these words here. The first one's been done for you. Run rhymes with sun, bun, fun. You might think of some more. Choose either that sheet, which is probably the trickier sheet because you have to come up with your own rhyming words, and then underneath that table you'll find your lines to do your own verse, or take a look at this sheet where you just need to match the two rhyming words on this column. So match the word in this column that rhymes with the word in that column. Okay, and then when you've done that, have a go at writing your own simple verse. Have some fun with it. You'll want to do it in pencil because you will want to go back and change the length of your lines or change your words or tweak it in some way, I think. But have fun with it. It's all about having some fun. And don't stress over it. Nice short lines will do. Just focus on those rhyming words at the end of the sentences, okay? Have some fun with this today, and we will learn more about poetry as we go through the week. Your spellings today, new sounds right word. We are looking at the h sound. So we're looking at the h sound. So words like behave and who and whole. So you will need the grid. I think it's the 2-column grid because we're looking at 2 different ways of spelling the h sound. Okay, so new sounds right focus and a new English writing focus. Right, enjoy this, and I will be back tomorrow. Word of the week, by the way, this week, word of the week is the word panorama. Panorama, that means a stunning view or a complete view of a surrounding area. Your challenge is to get that into your work this week. I'm going to have a go at doing that as well. Right, take care everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.